I would like to welcome everybody to this demonstration. Shocking news. Debunking the R. Kelly, you know what, tapes. Because allegedly there were two. All right. Let me get this copyright disclaimer out the way, and then we're going to take a deep dive into the infamous R. Kelly tapes. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. What that means is that everything that you hear in this demonstration is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Now, we're going to backtrack, all right? We're going to backtrack. I know it was many years ago, so many of you may have forgot some things in this case. Whether you can remember all of the things that took place, we're going to backtrack and we're going to debunk the tape. Drop a one if you feel like that was not R. Kelly in the tape. Drop a 2 if you feel like it is R. Kelly. Salute Marie, salute Shell, April, Coke Tan, Michelle, Pretty Problem Niche. Drop a 1 if you feel like it was R. Kelly in them tapes. Drop a 2 if you feel like it's not him in them tapes. Let's take a deep dive back in time, y'all.
A law enforcement source tells CBS News that Chicago prosecutors obtained a new video recording allegedly showing R. Kelly sexually assaulting an underage girl. Lawyer Michael Avenatti says that he gave the video to the Cook County State's attorney. The nearly 45-minute-long VHS tape allegedly shows R. Kelly sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl. So joining me now is legal analyst and attorney Tanya Young-Williams to talk a little bit about this latest information about R. Kelly. He also spoke to the Associated Press about R. Kelly, and he said that the claims are false and said that the women, or rather an attorney for R. Kelly said that the women R. Kelly, he spoke a little bit about rather the women that R. Kelly meets on tour. I want to play a little bit of what R. Kelly's attorney had to say, and then we can talk about it.
In the course of being on the road, met a groupie, and she lied about her age. She certainly always appeared to be an adult. He never knowingly has been with a minor.
All right, so it seems like the defense is trying to sort of say that R. Kelly can't be held accountable for his actions if he was lied to.
Now, let me just slide in. And I'm going to show y'all, and I have to say allegedly. Now, this is a picture of the alleged 14-year-old. You see a picture of her when she was in the video, allegedly. Then you see a picture of her when she's older. When you look at the nose prints, how many of y'all see a difference in the nose? Do anybody see a difference in the nose? The one that's when she had the dreadlocks, that's her at an adult age. That's Rashana at this old age. All right. Nene says, yes, I see a difference. April says, I do. But that could also, if she's famous, that could also come from plastic surgery. Michelle says, yes. Is it anybody that would say that this is the same person? And I want all of the R. Kelly detectives on social media, you all are welcome to join me on the panel. I will drop this link And you all are welcome to join me on this panel. I'm sure many of you all would like to weigh in on this. Shell says, yes, I see a difference. Miss T says, everyone, when you come in, make sure you hit the like button. I see you, Miss Groovy. So we're going to come back. We'll come back to this photo. We're going to come back to this photo.
About the ages of the women that he interacts with. Is that a viable defense?
Good morning. Yes. Well, in Illinois, there is a defense when the victim is between the ages of 13 and 17, and the defendant did not know the victim's age. So that is a viable defense. I think what you're going to run into in this case is that if the tapes are believed to be true, and from what we're hearing about the tapes, and there was reference in the tapes to the victim's age, there you're going to find a little bit of a problem, because it is our understanding that they reference the victim's age to be 14.
Now, let me let it play before I say something.
So I think that's one of the things that makes this tape a bit different from the tapes from which R. Kelly was brought to trial years ago.
Now, in my opinion, that just sounds like a straight setup. Who does that? Who makes a tape and specifically makes it known that this female that's in this tape is 14? It's almost like, okay, look, we plotting, okay, make sure to mention that she's 14. Who does that? Now, let's backtrack. And what I'm about to say, it even happens today. Look, y'all, this has always been a thing. Okay? Females between, and some under 13. But it was normal. And females today, that's 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, jack their ages up. Like I said, now let's keep it 100. You got an opportunity to be with a celebrity. You mean to tell me you don't think a 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old want to jack their age up? Let me backtrack. That is common for 13 to 17-year-old females to do, jack their ages up. Now, we can say, well, R. Kelly should have knew better. He should have checked her ID. But then we know, especially back then, there was a such thing as fake IDs. I had a fake ID before. So when we really looking at it from Kelly should have been responsible, we looking at it, well, the females jack their ages up. I mean, I'm going to come back to the age. y'all.
Where in this tape, he explicitly, as we understand, or allegedly says that the victim's age is 14. So the defense, which it is a viable defense in Illinois, for the defendant not to know that the victim was underage.
We ain't doing all of that. I'm just keeping it one. We ain't doing it. Ain't nobody doing all of that. You know what I mean? I'm in the act, and you know, I know I'm being recorded, and I'm specifically stressing you 14. I'm specifically mentioning, you know, sex talk, and I'm calling out that you're 14 years old. Who does that? Ain't nobody doing all of that. Nobody's doing all of that because, first of all, in his mind, he knows I don't supposed to be inappropriate touching her anyway. So Why would I tell on myself? Why would I be on camera telling that I know she's 14? Nah, y'all, nah. I smell a rat, and I smell a big rat.
That is a valid defense that they can use in a trial.
So just to let people know in regards to this tape, it's true that Michael Avenatti, who is the lawyer for Stormy Daniels, he's the one that's bringing this tape forward. According to what we understand, reports are that CNN has also viewed this tape. So presuming they can verify that what Michael Avenatti says is indeed what's on the tape. Michael Avenatti says he's been investigating these claims for 10 months or so, and this video would still be under the statute of limitations in the state of Illinois. I want to just play a little bit more of what he had to say to our Jerika Duncan.
Do you think that this could be the tape that leads to an arrest of R. Kelly?
There's no question that not only could this tape lead to his arrest, it will lead to his arrest and his conviction and incarceration. This is a bombshell of epic proportions. I know that.
Okay, so we have not seen the tape, right? But he certainly described, Avenatti has gone on record describing what he says it contains. Is he right? If it contains exactly what he says, which is, you know, R. Kelly engaged in a sexual activity with a female that he seems to say he knows is 14, is this enough to get R. Kelly charged? And I mean, will he be seeing the inside of a courtroom?
Yes, will he be seen inside of a courtroom is another question. Can he be indicted if this tape is to be believed? Yes, he could be indicted. In Illinois, predatory criminal sexual assault, statute of limitations, 20 years after the victim turns 18. So the statute of limitations has not run. This could be aggravated criminal sexual assault and predatory criminal sexual assault.
Let me jump down to the chat, y'all, because they railroaded my man. Let me jump down and see what my chat's saying. I feel this was a setup. Someone didn't get their way, so they made all kinds of stuff up. In the picture, didn't he have like a mask on? How are you going to say definitely that's him? But at 13, 14, and 15 years old, how did he have that much access to them? If people are going to blame him, let's look at all parties. Exactly. When the mom and the dad hand delivered, allegedly, I believe Sparkle allegedly hand delivered the niece to R. Kelly. One way or another, adults, if not one adult, there were adults that hand delivered the niece to R. Kelly. So what are we talking about? I feel you, Nene. Ms. Groovy says they have been doing it since the beginning of time. I had a fake ID since my first year of high school because I am always the baby in my friend groups. Still to this day, I'm the baby of my friends. I see you, Rook. Salute, Rook. Mel says, just like they told Michael Jackson to say he was 11, but he was 13. Exactly. Avenatti can't be trusted. Appreciate you, Rook. Salute, Cotan. Yes, please hit that like button. Tammy says, I'm sick of all of this. Self-love says, Shank, they sure did railroad him. Yes, they did. Lola says, wait, huh? April says, but Shank, you're forgetting that in a lot of cases, if they just look good and they need them for the video, or if they can sing, they're going to try to help them. That's what stars do to help them gain. And I know where you're going at, April, more money. And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Now, let's look at the wife, because I wanted to bring this up as well. Tammy says he was a victim himself. Now, y'all remember that the wife, Andrea, and it's in the opening statements. Let me get this out, and y'all let me know what y'all think. So in her opening statements, now remember in the Surviving R. Kelly documentary, remember his wife, Andrea, said that she didn't know Lisa Van Allen, right? But in the opening statements, it says, and this will be shown to you on polygraph results relating to the copy of that tape. These polygraphs were ordered by Edward Jensen. The results were provided to Edward Jensen. This was Edward Jensen's investigation. Darrell McDavid never made anyone do anything. And you will learn that when Lisa Van Allen turned over the tape, there were people present, not liars and blackmail artists, but professional people that saw how that tape was delivered. Darrell McDavid never got that tape. The tape was reviewed by Edward Jensen and his experts. And what you will learn is the tape that Lisa Van Allen gave them was a threesome. She was in it. And who was she in it with? R. Kelly's wife. But in the documentary, in the Surviving the R. Kelly documentary, remember, they didn't know each other. Right? Right. 2008 trial judge stated the tape was a rotten tomato. Read the transcripts. Drea is a liar. She just mad Kel's divorced her. The casting couch is infamous. R. Kelly did not create it, nor did Puffy. It's more likely that they were created on it. Facts. Andrea was full of ish. She participated and enjoyed every perk that comes with R. Kelly, even until this day. That's exactly why she didn't change her or her children's name. Exactly. Now, go back to R. Kelly's and Sparkle's relationship situation. Go back. Andrea was around through it all. She's the wife. She was around through it all. The same thing, the same question that I asked Sparkle, why did you hang around? Why did you go back? The same question we got to ask Andrea. If R. Kelly had all of these women, why did you stay? And I know the famous quotation or the famous words somebody is going to say. Shank, she was dependent on R. Kelly. And it might be so, but let me tell y'all, all women do not stay with a cheating husband. All women do not stay with an abusive husband. All women do not stay with a monster just because they're dependent on that man. There are plenty of women that have divorced. There are plenty of women that have left cheating husbands, husbands that physically, mentally, and spiritually abuse them. There are plenty of women that got up out of those relationships. So we don't want to make that the norm. And we don't want to use that as an excuse for women to hang around. There are many of women that got up out of them relationships. See. So we have to start questioning these women. Like I said, there are women that are over here. There are righteous women, virtuous women, women of the cloth, independent women, church-going women, all kind of women on the right side of the tracks, right? But then you have those women that's on the left side of the tracks that make it bad for those women that are on the right side of the track. once again, why did Drea stay with R. Kelly? Why did Drea, just like Sparkle, why did Drea lie and said she didn't know Lisa Van Allen? It's documented. It's on the Surviving R. Kelly series. She didn't know them. She didn't know her. She didn't know none of them, right? But here, I just read in the opening statements that video, that tape that Lisa handed over, it got Lisa in that tape in a threesome with Drea and I believe R. Kelly. Give me a minute, Mel, and I'm going to let you slide in. Lola says, money. Salute, EJ. I see you, EJ. Shout out to Dana J and the Dream Team. Tammy says, Andrea was toxic herself. She is the victim, then she's the perpetrator because she is so codependent. Darlene says, exactly. I think Drea was in this all along. Self-Love says she was set up good with her divorce. Why is she still talking ill on Kels until this day? Exactly. Salute, J-Rock. Appreciate you for pulling up. Salute, Aletta. Come on in, Mel. Talk to us.
Salute, Jay. You know, it is a big question with the, you know, these women, like why they stay around. And I don't buy the, are they dependent on that person or whatever, because let's look at this. Sierra left Future. He was toxic.
Yep.
Cardi B left Offset. He was toxic. Tiana Taylor left Amon Shupert. Like, these are all women that have gone, I'm not saying they've gone through some of the stuff that these people are talking about, but either way, you can't say that you don't leave these toxic relationships because you're dependent on that person. You know, so where did you start? Like, how did R. Kelly meet you? Like, where did you come from? You see what I'm saying? Like, who were you before R. Kelly? Were you just a regular person? Then most regular people just live regular. They go get a regular job, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So who were these women aside of I can sing and I want to be a star? Then how did you come to R. Kelly?
Right.
And what made you stay and just now, 25 years later, you got all of this stuff to say about R. Kelly, but you was still there. Why? Who were you before you got there?
Exactly.
Like, what was your identity? So did somebody else peep your game and then go, and there go eat snakes on the plane again? You know, I'll talk about that. So did somebody peep your game and then now, hey, I see your game now. I mean, you tell him or you gonna help with this. You feel what I'm saying?
Yes,
it
ma'am.
has to be a reason why they had the power to do that, because you have to look at it this way. These men, whether it's R. Kelly or, you know, Puff or whoever, these are black men, billionaires, who had the ability to change the culture from what they say the entertainment industry is. You know, they had a chance to change the culture for that. But somebody don't want that to happen. And then we go and we as people, we crucifying these men. But I'm gonna ask this question. Who remember Britney Spears?
Yes, ma'am.
Britney Spears was the bomb. And the minute she let them put that snake on her neck, she was never the same. She wasn't produced by R. Kelly. Was she? She wasn't produced by Bad Boys. So who was producing her? To where she lost her mind. Demi Lovato, they weren't produced by them. So what caused them to lose their mind? Lindsay Lohan. Let's dip into those artists. So who was responsible for them?
Right.
Right? So this is like, we have to see it for what it is. Because these guys are billionaires that had the capability of changing the culture, and for African Americans to really soak into their culture. They're all great entertainers. So we have to question, where did these women come from?
Mm.
The only one that seemed to have potential was Aaliyah, and look what happened to Aaliyah.
Right.
So
That's deep. That's deep in itself, Mel. You know, it's like the ones that they can't control. Have y'all noticed? The ones that they can't control, they somehow meet an untimely death. But the ones that they can control, they are used as pawns. Come on, Mel.
right, exactly. Because I'm just thinking, like, who are these women? Like, who are they? You know, it's like, you know, what? I mean, Sparkle, I don't really know none of her music. I'm not saying she didn't make any. I just don't know any. The same thing came to Cassie. You know, I didn't really know any Cassie music. I know Britney Spears music, but where's she at? She lost her mind. So we have to stop crucifying R. Kelly and having all the African American producers and stuff. I'm not saying that they wasn't wrong for doing stuff, but where did these women come from? Because me, I mean, I'm just a regular person. If I dated a celebrity, I'd still be me. If it didn't work, hey, I'm gone. I'm still doing my regular thing. But these people are saying, my God, and you always ask the question, why did you stay around? The same thing with everybody asks, why did you stay? Why did you stay? 10 years, 12 years, 50, like, why are you people still there? For this reason, to 30 years later, let these folks throw these people in prison, and you the first one singing about them? That doesn't make a lot of sense. But nobody's coming out about, I'm gonna tell you, if you got, I don't know how many fans of this show is, but The Masked Singer, you know, and I think about why did Nick Cannon come up with that doggone show? A lot of it happened during COVID. But when you look at the people that's on there outside of the athletes and things like that, that you might know, look at the people that are on there. Most of them, a lot of them, you know, are, you know, of the Caucasian persuasion, but there are people that had futures that ended really, really quick. Whether they were an actor, actress, a singer, and their careers just, you know, just got dumped on. And this is now 20 years later, they're trying to make a comeback. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
So who dumped on those people? It wasn't R. Kelly. It wasn't Pop. So who ruined those people's careers? So this is bigger than them, right?
Yes.
And you know, and then you got to Sparkle out there still, what, 25 years later, you want to make a comeback. But you had the same issue you had way back then with R. Kelly. You didn't have any money. Studio time costs money. You said out your own mouth, I just had a 9 to 5. But that 9 to 5 wasn't paying for that studio time. So you inserted yourself in there, and now you're the victim.
Because see, she was hand delivered, allegedly. I gotta say allegedly. She was hand delivered by her husband, Earl, from Public Announcement. Now, we know studio works in different ways. Okay, you have the regular studio time. This is how studios work. You got studio time. You could buy by the hour, or you could buy them by the blocks. It just depends. You know. Now you do the studio time. Now, when you're with a producer and the producer is producing, this is why producers get the percentage that they get. This is why executives, this is why the labels get money off of the artist. Because if you're not producing yourself, 9 times out of 10, whoever that is that's producing you, they're buying the studio time. They're getting that studio time for you. So she goes in. She ain't the producer. Like Mel said, she was working a 9 to 5. She wasn't buying no studio time. So she gets connected to R. Kelly by way of her husband, Earl, from Public Announcement. But they had, according to Public Announcement, they had already recorded the demo. They already had the demo done. Okay? Now, they give the demo to R. Kelly. R. Kelly like, I like it. I like him, what I hear. Okay. The only way that I'm gonna be able to do something with it is I have to take complete control of this, ownership. I gotta write, I gotta produce. R. Kelly knows where's the money at. He knows the money is in producing. He knows the money is in writing. He knows if he take this project from Sparkle that's produced by public announcement, he ain't really gonna see no money off of it. See, when you really, and I'm gonna let you come in, Mel, when you really do your homework, R. Kelly was a boss. And that's the problem that the industry had with him. That's the problem that the industry have with anybody that comes in and being a boss. Because the more that you know the game, the more that you are able to do for yourself, that cuts them out. R. Kelly was a boss. That's why he had the people in the groups, and that's why he had Sparkle. That's why he had them not fraternizing with each other. He's a boss. See, but when you don't know the game, when you don't know how the industry works, you just looking at it like Sparkle probably looked at it. Who's this Negro? You know what I mean? So, like I said before, Sparkle came in thinking she was going to run things. She left her husband. That's a big ass jump. It's a different story if a woman just come through, you know what I mean? Like most of them, that's probably why they wasn't beefing. That's why they probably have an issue. But she just left her husband. She's already feisty. You could tell her attitude. You could tell her aura. Check the temperature. So she was already feisty with it anyway. So now she come on board. What else she say? Yeah, Robin liked me. She knew that. She wore that with like a badge of honor. But what she didn't know that R. Kelly is the boss and you are a worker. She said before, he told me, I knew he was dealing with the women. So if you knew that he was dealing with these women, why did you leave your husband? If I ever get an opportunity to interview Sparkle, if anybody ever get an opportunity to interview Sparkle, I don't care how mad she get. I don't care if you only get that one question off. Please ask Sparkle, why did you leave Earl from public announcement to be with R. Kelly? Come on then, Mel.
Look how similar that story is. That's why I say we have to try to determine where these people are coming from and who's sending them, right? That what you just said about Sparkle is the exact same story as Cassie. Cassie was with a producer man and he walked her to Puffy.
Yep.
That everybody has to see that is the play. That's where the setup began with these same story. You with him, he's a producer, but he can't really produce what you need. So let me take you to Diddy, and then you left Diddy. I mean, you went through all kind of trifling stuff and left Diddy, and left that one producer guy for Diddy. You lied like you had a show in Miami. Come on,
Bingo.
And this girl the same thing.
And let me slide in. And I'm not talking about all women, y'all, so don't get it twisted. But when women flirt with men, especially in this predicament, they're using a kitty cat. That's the only thing that's going to keep our attention. Once again, it's not like R. Kelly was a pastor. It's not like R. Kelly was a CEO for a major corporation. It's not like R. Kelly was a figure on this side as far as men, a righteous man. Then you know what to expect if you dealing with a righteous man. You know what to expect if you're dealing with a pastor, a deacon, a CEO of a corporation. It's going to be in your mind, regardless of his position, he still has potentials to be a cheater. He still has a he still has the potentials to be a womanizer. However, when you are dealing with a R&B singer by the name of R. Kelly, you already know what comes with the territory. Yes or no? Slide in, Mel.
Well, you know what? We can't stop at R. Kelly. Think about all the R&B singers.
That's what I'm saying.
That's their life.
And rappers.
It's just like an athlete. If he
Come
ain't
on.
coming out of college with his girlfriend or wife, and he just out there,
Come on.
ask Magic Johnson. It's just the life. They call them groupies. They in every city. They bold enough to be at your hotel room when you get there. It is what it is. It's life. So we, as far as people that's really not in the industry or stuff like that, we can't look at it like these are bad people. R. Kelly was a bad person. R. Kelly this. You can't do it like that. He was just a human being. And he was a music producer. If some girl wanted to throw it at him, we can't say, oh no, you're a music producer. You can't do it. But then you have to tell Joe Clark at the pool hall, who out there hanging with his boys, and some chick walk up on him and, oh, no, you can't do that because you're just a regular person. You got to be here. You can't separate celebrities and athletes from regular people because they are regular people. That's just their jobs.
It come with the territory. You do know the women. You do. It's like it's raining women. And public announcements, he said that on the tour bus, he said R. Kelly's bunk, because there's bunks. R. Kelly's bunk was at the back. His room was at the back. He said it was the other bunks, and the women slept in the back in the bunks. He said sometimes he would see some of the women in and out of the bed with R. Kelly. They even said they seen Aaliyah in the bed with R. Kelly, because that's why he said to Earl from public announcement, you might not want to send her Sparkle to R. Kelly, because Earl even seen R. Kelly and Aaliyah in the bed. Now, my opinion, and it's just my opinion, if he's guilty, what exactly is it that he's guilty of? Is R. Kelly guilty of marrying Aaliyah when Aaliyah was 15 years old? Is that a crime? In America, it's probably a crime. However, Mel can help me out with this, and everybody else can help me out with this. If a minor gets the consent of an adult that's a family member, then it's not a crime. Help me out, Mel.
My little cousin did it. She's actually my third cousin. Her mom passed away, so her grandma raised her, and she gave her permission. She gave her permission for her to get married. She's 15, and I think the guy was like 45 or something like that. But they still married. So, and that's been like 10 years ago.
See, today we are in a different day and time. Today's females are different from yesterday's females. Today's female, I would like to say 60, it may be more than that. 60% of women today are independent women. Times change. Back in the 90s, those numbers were very low. Maybe 10 to 20% of women that were independent. Back in the days, that is just how things were ran. As a female, they were raised this way in the households. Get yourself an education, make sure you got a job, and catch a good man that can take care of you. Yes or no, Mel?
You're right. And as generations change, they do change. If you look at the average person, and say like you see a newspaper clipping or a magazine clipping, and you see a couple and say they've been married for 73 years. Go back and look at the age of that man and that lady. I guarantee you he got about 10, 15, or 20 years because that's how it was. And as generations go on, that's how things happen. Like nowadays, most of the young girls now, they're athletes. They're getting at the bag. They are professional athletes. They're starting young and, you know, elementary, middle school, and all through high school. They're athletes. For example, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. They are athletes. So that's a whole different generation. They ain't looking to be wiped up right now. They're getting at their bag. They're athletes. That's their profession. That's their business. So that's just how things are. But it doesn't change the fact that now the thing about it now is, and the rules are bent where it's not applying to everybody. Only the African American producers, that, oh my God, they're making an age. But really, if anybody, and I've done it already, if you Google the word patio and you know the rest, because I don't want to say it on Shank's channel, it says it's a psychiatric disorder for people that have, fetishes about children 13 or younger. It don't mention 14, 15, or 16 because the human anatomy around that age, 14, is usually like a freshman in high school. We can sit on, in our little groups and our chats and say, oh my God, there's that. But people is experiencing things at that age. Regardless if they're African American, white, regardless, they're experiencing things at that age. It just is what it is. To talk about it doesn't make it right or wrong, or to say, okay, anybody, but believe me, they're experiencing things in high school. So that's why that's why they say 13 or younger, but 14, by the time it's 14, that's just the human anatomy. Now, does it right, or is it safe to say, okay, well, a 14-year-old can't consent, does not have the mentality to consent to, oh yes, they do. Because that's why that age is that's why they cut that age off at 13. They know they do. Now, where all of the other part come in, is it right? Maybe not, because you do have some crazy instances of where people take that too far, but they take it there because they already know, some people still live in those days and times. But at the end of the day, all things have been being set up because in Hollywood, that's just how it was. Because at the end of the day, they know who pretty much own, the music industry, the culture of music. Rather, no matter what you sing in country, western, rock and roll, it all started through African Afro beats. That's how everything started. And it's crazy how, when they saw the talent of these African American producers, they put a target on them decades ago. If we fast forward today, they miraculously changed the law, so now we can go back 20 years and say, oh, you know what, you did that with a 15-year-old. But nobody was checking for that. Trust me, there wasn't. The 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, nobody was checking for that. They just wasn't. But see, now the tables are turning and the money is getting funny. Because now these guys are worth billions of dollars. And they got to let go of it. Oh, no, we're going to put you in prison. Because one thing, that's a way for them to hold or take your money. As young people,
Mm-hmm.
they season your stuff. You got to fight to get that back. So it's funny because when you think about somebody like Sparkle, all of this stuff you out there rattling off, why would you were so mad that you rather see him lose everything he got because he didn't choose you.
And let me slide in. Appreciate that super chat, Tanya J. Good demonstration, Shank, showing some love. Now let me slide in, because for all those that wish we could stop talking about race, for all those that wish Black people would stop playing victim, and I always say, every case that's involving Black people, every case is not racially, is not a racial issue. However, in these cases, they are. How old was what was Elvis' wife? Priscilla. Y'all say, well, she was 15 when she got with Elvis, but he didn't marry her until she became 20. Okay, she's 15 and she got with Elvis. Let's talk about the Bunny Ranch. Hugh Hefner, correct? The Bunny Ranch ain't nothing but pimping 101. That's all Hugh Hefner is doing, is pimping. Now, when the Caucasians, when they do it, y'all don't see the Caucasian man. And if you go to Bill Cosby, you go to Tupac, you go to P. Diddy, you go to R. Kelly. What was their crimes involving? What was surrounding their crimes? Women, correct? Now you go to the Caucasians, when they get accused of any of this, it always get swept up under the rug, and it never gets this type of media attention that the brothers get. It's something wrong there. You understand? When the brothers get brought down, Bill Cosby, he wanted to own his own network. Yes or no? They brought him down. R. Kelly, he wanted his masters. He wanted the ownership. I believe, Mel, 17 billion that they owe R. Kelly. They bring him down.
Yep.
Tupac was a revolutionary, a militant. Brought him down. Michael Jackson, Prince, brought him down. P. Diddy wanted to sue the alcohol brand, right? P. Diddy spoke about financing a new political party, Black nationalists, even though Black nationalists has always been around. But P. Diddy is want to make these type moves. What happened to P. Diddy? Bring him down. And who did they use to bring them all down? Women. Tiger Woods, another one. Now, you mean to tell me the best that they could do with Tiger Woods was a nanny? Go to the Caucasian men. They don't get the same treatment that the brothers get. So when you want us to stop talking about Black and white and race, we can't. I'll say it again. Until Black Americans receive justice, until Black Americans are treated like our fellow counterparts, white men and women, it's going to always be talks about race. Always. Let me come in, Mel, real quick, because I want to go back to this clip.
Yeah, Shane, just to really piggyback off what you were saying, And I think, the takedown, that's why it's now and it's so rapid, because the world has been opened up to the cultural divide. A lot of
Hmm,
people was just, in the dark, but now
hmm,
the world, especially the United States, have been opened up to the cultural divide. People that never even paid attention to this. That's why I go back and say, why don't those artists like Britney Spears and let's not forget Miley Cyrus, why they don't bring down the people that did probably God knows what to them. Britney Spears ain't never been right anymore. Demi Lovato tried, but she can't come out of that. Lindsay Lohan, she's just a whole nother story. But why don't they bring down their abusers
hmm.
or the people that has done something to them? Why don't? But it's us. It's sparkle them. All in case. They are quick to bring down all of the African American men. But why aren't those women speaking on the people that have ruined their careers and did God knows what to them? Why don't they talk about them? Why aren't they running? Why don't the FBI have 20 years of tapes and files on them? They don't want to know what happened to Britney Spears.
Hmm.
They don't want to know how Miley Cyrus was Hannah Montana one day and the next day she was doing a nude cover for Vogue magazine. They don't want to know. Come on, Shank.
I mean, Mel hit it on the nose. Let me come back.
So this could be a very big deal if this tape is in fact to be R. Kelly, as well as a victim under the age of 17.
So, Tanya, part of the reason.
And if this tape is not, I'm sorry.
I was going to say part of the reason we're all talking about this now is because of that documentary series, Surviving R. Kelly. And there were, a number of women who came forward who said that they had been abused. If he is indicted and this moves on to court, could we see some of those women being called? Could some of what they have to say be part of building a pattern of behavior sort of case?
Absolutely. It would be part of a past criminal not wanting to be part of any trial, but this would seem to be a pattern. And in fact, the allegations of which we're hearing are in this tape seem to be very consistent to conduct that were in tapes for which he was held that were in trial many, many years ago. Mm-hmm. So this seems to be an alleged pattern of behavior. And so would not only be rape that the attorney is speaking about, but this too could possibly be child pornography. So we could possibly be looking at a redo for which R. Kelly was went to trial for when he was 35 years old. Mm-hmm. But this would be a completely new tape, which was not part of the trial that many years ago.
J-Rock, slide in, brother.
Shank, what's happening?
What's good, Jay?
Nothing much. I was listening. I was gonna wait till later on. I probably wasn't even gonna try to jump on, but it started getting a little too good for me to stay quiet. So I said, let me go ahead and slide up in here. I would shout out to Mel said some really good stuff right now, and I want to go ahead and kind of piggyback on some of the stuff that she already said. When she mentioned the fact about Aaliyah and Aaliyah's talent and what she had, everybody else in the industry around had that same vibe about Aaliyah. It was always that little something extra, that little it factor. And if you listen to a lot of interviews that people talking in regards to Aaliyah and then wherever she was, how she carried herself, a lot of people echoed that same thing about her. They echoed that it factor that she always had. And another very interesting thing you brought up about in regards to what R. Kelly is really worth as far as his masters and everybody else who before him tried to acquire the ownership of what was rightfully his. I could just run down just these 4 people here. Michael Jackson, king of pop, greatest entertainer who ever lived. Prince, one of the greatest musical geniuses of the past 50 years. Not to mention penned one of the greatest movie soundtracks of all time, of Purple Rain. Whitney, one of the most powerful and dynamic voices to ever be recorded. And you got R. Kelly, the greatest singer-songwriter of the modern era. 3 of them have passed away. 1 is in prison, and the 1 in prison wrote for 2 of the 3 that died. And people always ask, well, why now? Why are they really trying to go after R. Kelly right now? Why are they trying? Now, there's gonna be a little bombshell I'm gonna drop, and some people didn't pick this up, but I did. R. Kelly's got at least 9 milestone anniversaries this year alone. And a few of those are his 3rd album is set to hit its 30th anniversary this year. TP2.com is about to celebrate its silver/25th anniversary this year. TP3 Reloaded is about to celebrate its 20th anniversary this year. Trapped in the Closet is about to celebrate its 20th anniversary this year.
Wow.
I can keep, and You Are Not Alone that he wrote for Michael Jackson, celebrating his 30th anniversary this year. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I shortchanged him, because guess what else? Love Letter is about to celebrate its 15th anniversary this year. The Buffet is about to celebrate its 10th anniversary this year. And here's a couple others. Remember the Shaft soundtrack in 2000? Had 2 songs on there, Bad Man and Up and Out of Here.
Yes, sir.
Both of them about to celebrate their 25th/silver anniversary this year. And one other, a well-known artist that we all know and love ever since the Gap Band, Charlie Wilson. First name Charlie, last name Wilson. That album that came out, R. Kelly was executive producer. That's celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. So if you run down everything I just ran this year alone, all of that he's got now, it's staggering. That's just this year. I didn't even talk about the previous years that's already hit, that already went past and everything else. Because at this point in time right now, that man, I'm telling you, he has done more for a lot of artists. He has breathed new life into more careers than EMTs give CPR to patients.
Yes, sir.
I mean, when I went back, I actually forgot that he had executive producer Charlie Wilson's first name Charlie, last name Wilson. Now I forgot he was executive producer. I knew he did a couple of tracks. I had to go back on the credit. I said he was executive producer.
And Charlie Wilson, I mean, he wrote for many of legends, but we talking Charlie Wilson. We talking Michael Jackson. You Are Not Alone.
Charlie Wilson, Michael Jackson, what he did for the Isley Brothers. Golly, come on, man. He gave Mr. Big, he gave Isley Brothers a whole new generation of fans.
Didn't he? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I can tell you this, the late Angie Stone, God rest her soul, if nothing else, Black Man Alone, you ought just give her thanks for the song, Brother. If nothing else in life, if she never do nothing else, that song that Angie Stone did alone was enough. Yeah. But I can tell you, she spoke up, and it's kind of funny because she spoke up R. Kelly. She said she didn't defend anything. She's not defending any charges or whatever the case may be. But she didn't like the fact on how he was being treated.
Right.
She didn't like it. She didn't like how he was being treated at all.
Right.
And what I found very interesting, Angie Stone was beefing with her label. Yeah. And her label was Universal Records. And Universal actually The same people that Angie Stone was beefing with are the same people that had a huge hand in what happened to R. Kelly. I didn't know that Universal Records had a majority of R. Kelly's publishing.
I didn't know that either.
And come to find out, Universal Records also had a hand in surviving R. Kelly. So the same people Angie Stone was beefing with are the same ones that had a huge hand in what happened to R. Kelly. That's too many coincidences in one circle, man. That's just too many.
That's facts.
I mean, this is just, I mean, it's staggering. It's staggering. And Michael Jackson's death, the anniversary of Michael Jackson's death was just yesterday.
Let me ask you this, J-Rock. What's good with what I got on the screen now? Who's these people, J-Rock?
One of them is Rashonda Landfair on the far right. On the far left, it could be Rashonda Landfair, but it is kind of iffy. And the chick in the middle is neither Rashonda Landfair, but it looks like it's a chick that I kind of know who it is. I don't want to mention the name, but it ain't Rashonda Landfair. And and shout out to Tina Powers. I saw Tina Powers said Chris Brown asked R. Kelly to remake his song that was behind prison. When R. Kelly jumped on and did the residuals challenge, R. Kelly did more in 2 minutes than most artists that would take most artists 2 months to do. I mean, he literally shook the internet that quick. And I've told people time and time again, if you look at R. Kelly's work, that's why I found it so laughable when you talk about a RICO. The man spends a minimum of 16 hours in the studio.
Yeah.
Minimum of 16. He's known to sleep there, a couple of days, at least a day or two, if not longer. So my question is, how is he going to have time to run a RICO enterprise if he's in the studio for that long, and then got to keep tabs on all the women he's supposed to have captive?
That's my same question. That was my question about Diddy too. It's like, when do these people have time to be doing all of this stuff? Like,
Now, I agree with you 110%. I agree.
Let me go to Michael Avenatti real quick. I'm gonna come back to y'all. Let me.
Just this morning, I saw you on the news talking about a third tape.
Now it's a third
What
tape.
can you tell us how this will be different than what we saw in 2008 with the trial against R. Kelly?
Well, I think it's going to be different on a number of different grounds, or for a number of different reasons. First of all, you're going to have actual victims that I think are going to testify in the trial against R. Kelly, girls who are going to come forward, young ladies that are going to come forward and talk about the assault and the abuse that they suffered at the hands of R. Kelly time and time again. That's going to be a significant difference. I think the quality of the videotape and videotapes that we've now provided is far superior to what existed back in connection with the trial in 2008.
And I want to stop you right there. These tapes are different than the tape that was used.
They're completely different.
And what year were these tapes taken?
They were taken in the late 90s, early 2000s. So the time frame is around the same, but they are entirely different tapes. This is not the tape that was at issue in the earlier trial. It's entirely different.
Okay.
So now that these tapes are going to be presented, one of the problems in the earlier trial, at least for the prosecution, was that the witness in the tape did not want to cooperate. These witnesses and this witness in this tape that you presented, or maybe the 2 tapes you presented, will cooperate?
Well, I'm not in a position to talk about specific witnesses, whether...
I bet you ain't. But what changed? I'm gonna let my next guest, Nikki Lynn, slide in. But what changed from them not wanting to speak on the first tapes? Now you got these other tapes that come out. Now they're willing to speak. Slide in, Nikki Lynn.
Hey, Shank, Mel, J Rock, Rock Squad chat. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sound good.
Okay. I don't have my earpiece in, that's why I asked. I understand that I'm in the minority here. And I am not up here to do battle with you or anyone in your chat. So respectfully, I get it. I'm in the minority. I'm not even going to challenge your chat as people were challenging me the other day on my background. Those of you up here know my background. So we not ain't going to go there. But what I want to understand from you guys on the panel, and maybe even a few in the chat, are we insinuating that celebrity status is what separates these obvious, I ain't gonna say obvious, let me take that word back. Are we insinuating that celebrity status is what separates a criminal from our typical lay people? Because every day, Shank, you know, I give you credit for allowing all us to have our opinions. And that's why I come to your chat. That's why I hit your panel. But when we claim we fight for justice, I myself say I advocate for victims. A victim can be anyone. But I don't understand what's making the difference between someone like R. Kelly and Jarvis Butts. I really don't get it, other than his celebrity status, his money. And I heard J Rock speaking, and you giving all his accolades and all his accomplishments, and no one can put him down for the fact that he's a very talented man, very creative. Give you that. So is Bill Cosby, maybe P. Diddy. I don't know about his talent. That being said, a criminal is a criminal. And if you commit crimes, then you need to be held accountable. A criminal can also be a victim. I myself know that just from the establishment I worked in. So again, I never said he was perfect because I understand the background R. Kelly came from. I believe he was once a victim who went on to become a predator. But I'm not certainly going to set up here and continue to overlook his crimes because he's very creative and he's a great artist, nor anybody for that matter. Because I also hear you guys, not anyone in particular when I say you guys, but you voted in a felon as president. Because again, you're willing to overlook crimes for what reason? Some people get ignored and some people get applauded, but a criminal is a criminal.
You know what, Nikki, I get your point, and I totally agree with you. The only problem is when you start covering up evidence and you start hiding the truth in certain instances, that criminality now becomes questionable. And what I mean by that is when everybody said that R. Kelly flew back to Chicago to marry Aaliyah, because see, the real criminal, what nobody want to talk about, the real criminal was a guy by the name of Demetrius Smith. And Demetrius Smith was R. Kelly's quote unquote so-called tour manager. When he took the stand in the New York trial, Demetrius Smith said, well, R. Kelly, although he didn't have nothing to do with the marriage certificate per se, he said that R. Kelly stopped his tour because Aaliyah was in trouble, and he flew back and he went back to Chicago, and they got married. But I knew that was an outright lie, because when R. Kelly was on tour, R. Kelly had a concert on his 12-play tour in Lafayette, Louisiana. While he was in Lafayette, he stopped over at a gym called Red's Health Club to play basketball. Everybody knows if he's not in the studio or on tour, he's on the basketball court. While at Red's Health Club, R. Kelly's entourage got into a fight, which resulted in an aggravated assault charge, which then got escalated to a felony assault charge. See, all this happened before the so-called Aaliyah marriage took place. Even to the point that MTV removed the article from their website. And I know it's a lie for the simple fact that when I came home from school for the weekend from college, I wanted to go to that concert. I wasn't able to go. But my brother and his wife did. They went to that concert, spent the night, came back home and told me all about the damn show. See, Demetra Smith knew about that. Demetra Smith was the one, him and a couple of other people, they were the ones that said, well, we went on ahead up to Cook County and I got an ID for Aaliyah. And I know some people there that took some money. So R. Kelly had to leave Lafayette. Oh, by the way, it was a felony assault charge. So if there's a felony assault charge, there was a warrant issued, which means he still had a show at Lafayette, Louisiana, he was obligated to do. So he had to meet his lawyer so he had to meet up with his lawyer to deal with that issue, and his lawyer flew back down to Lafayette with him. And
J-Rock, with all due respect to you, I'm not an R. Kelly biographer. I don't have all these little sweet details and facts like you do. I appreciate the fact that you are well versed in his history. I'm not taking anything away from you. And again, I say with all due respect, but we're talking about his crimes.
But see, what I just said goes right into the crimes that I'm mentioning. Because New York and the Chicago prosecution, they never mentioned this as part of the RICO against R. Kelly. So if R. Kelly got a felony assault charge with his entourage, that means you got enablers. That means
I don't recall R. Kelly being charged with RICO.
That's what they charged him with.
Yeah, they hit him with the RICO. Let me just slide in for 1 second. Now, this what happens a lot of times. This happened to me. When they jam you up, 9 times out of 10, they gonna put all kind of charges on you. That's like in the Baby Oil Man case. Y'all see, they had to. Some people say they didn't drop him, Shank, but y'all know what I'm saying as far as the 3 charges that the feds is, mentioned, they not concerned with. So what happens, and it happened with R. Kelly, they'll stick X amount of charges on you. Is R. Kelly guilty of a crime? This is what we basing it on. We looking at it. Is he a criminal? He ain't no criminal. He's not a criminal.
He in jail. He doing time.
Let me try to clear it up.
Okay.
Let me just try to clear it up. A criminal has more than one charge on their record, and it could be from a petty crime all the way to something as high as the unaliving. A criminal breaks law. R. Kelly didn't break the law. R. Kelly cheated on his wife.
Shank, you always up here trying to minimize these criminals and their behavior. And you know better. Come on, I know better. I study criminal behavior. Each and every one of my clients was a criminal. Now, come on. I study criminal behavior for a living. He's a criminal.
So you mean
he's not a criminal, Nick? He's not a criminal.
So you mean to tell me that there wasn't a time that any criminal was found innocent of something when they was charged?
I will say that there were innocent men who did time for something they shouldn't have done. That I will say is true. Is that man the old baby man, as you call him? Nope. Is that man R. Kelly? No.
So what you're saying is that because it is Baby Oil Man or R. Kelly, they're guilty. But because of the other hundreds of black men that was accused of rape and of women that spent decades in prison that was released after decades of them going over the evidence and they were found not guilty, or the victim came out and
It's
say they
Dana
lied.
J. Welcome, baby.
So what I'm saying is that, and that's why I was saying how R. Kelly is a celebrity, but he's still a regular person.
No, Mel. What I'm
He's
saying
just
is
a
this.
give me a
Okay,
moment.
go
No,
ahead.
give me a moment, Nikki. He's just a music producer. So still, let's go back. There was a man that was just released, not I think the latter part of last year, on I'm not sure if it was Unaliving or Grape. He had spent what 30 years in prison for something he didn't do. But
Wait a minute.
the
Can I please answer Nini's question? Nini says, is Nikki Lynn saying if you commit a crime, you're now a criminal? Absolutely. If you commit a crime, you're a criminal. The word crime and criminal, yes, synonymous. If you commit a crime, you're a criminal. You do time. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Now, am I saying is there a road to redemption? Absolutely. Do I believe that people are redeemable? Absolutely. Do I think you can modify behavior? Absolutely. But you have to accept accountability. And having people set up here and claim that this man isn't a pedo just because he's very talented is faulty thinking.
I never
so
said
was
he was
he
he
dealing
wasn't.
with children? Because I went and I actually looked up the meaning of pedo because of something that somebody said the other night. And the definition was it is a psychiatric disorder in adults that have actual fantasies about children 13 or younger. So it skipped
Exactly,
four.
Mel.
Okay, give me a second. So it skipped 14. It skipped 15, 16 on up. You know why it skipped those numbers? Because by 14, most people are already having those tendencies. So that's like 14 is like a freshman in high school. Now, I know it's hundreds of thousands of high school people that probably had their first actual experience at 14 or 15. So that's why it skipped those ages. So it says 13 or younger. So I am, and I have asked this many times. Was he accused of something dealing with children 13 or younger? Because I don't really know it to be like that. Even with the same how they trumped up all the charges on Baby Oil Man. It was all the children. They have yet presented any children in his case. They said, oh, but Cassie was his baby. Cassie was 19. She's far from a baby. And I guarantee you she had already been active. Trust me.
Mm, mm, mm.
Wait a
So
minute, Shank. Let me go put my boxing gloves on because I see Dana, Mel, J Rock. I got to get myself prepared. Wait a minute, hold on. Y'all go ahead and keep on
Yeah,
talking. Let me
yeah,
get
go right
myself
ahead.
prepared for this.
But you
you know what
know,
I'm saying? But I'm waiting them to produce some children in Baby Oil Man case. Where the children at? They can't be talking about Cassie. There's no way.
yeah. You know
At
what?
18, she was an adult. At
Yeah,
14, she can make her own sexual decisions, even though some parents get involved and say, oh, 14, oh, they're going to get the grown man, and they can do that. But I'm telling you, that's why patio starts 13 or younger, because at 14, most kids have a sexual encounter. That's like a person in high school.
You gotta
So
give me
that's
a chance to respond, though, Mel.
go ahead. But it's in
I'm
writing.
Hold on, can I say something real quick, Lynn?
okay. Go ahead, y'all. Go ahead.
Listen, I just came up to say hello to everybody because I got a live that started in a few minutes. But I just came to say hello to everybody. And Nikki, I came to bother you. And I'm gonna tell you this: you cannot call somebody a pedo if they've been diagnosed by people that's higher than you that said they not a pedo.
Higher than me?
Yeah.
Higher than me? Do you know my title?
Listen,
Higher than me?
listen,
I don't
Nikki,
want to start running down my credentials to you, Dana J.
Nikki, listen. And we all know you got the credentials from heaven to hell.
Okay, thank you. As long as you recognize, thank you.
But on the books and on the calendars, the people that's in court that's paid to diagnose people are saying that
It's like I'm not.
Huh?
See, there you go. You speaking things into existence that you don't know. You better check my chart.
Nikki, I am
So
not.
say for instance that Nikki is qualified to make that diagnosis.
Absolutely qualified.
Okay.
I'm absolutely
Right.
qualified.
So you should know that the definition of a pedio.
No, you ain't
is
let me speak. I give you a lot of definitions, baby, but you ain't let me speak. But Dana
It's
J,
the-
please
I'll
don't
be
talk
back.
about my qualifications because you don't know.
Hey,
this
Nikki.
right is the one that's written, and that's the one that I read.
Nikki, I don't care if we gotta go to Harford Road and the Alameda. It don't matter to me. But I'll be back. Let me go ahead and do this. I'm gonna get you. Thank you, Shake. Man, I love every last one of y'all. I love this conversation because it opens up everybody. What up, J Rock? I see you in a few minutes, bro. But hey, Rock stars, y'all are on it. Y'all are on it. Stay on course. Y'all doing y'all thing. I like to see stuff like this.
Appreciate you, heavyweight Dana J.
Nah, man, you the heavyweight. I'm learning from you. I'm learning from you. And you got people jumping out of people's cars, talking about something. I didn't do it. Man. All right, bro. I'll be back.
All right. You want to finish?
I think it's real funny, Shank?
Huh?
I tell you know what I think is real funny?
Yeah.
When people say when Toronto Burke and everybody came out with the Me Too movement, and everybody started talking about believe all women, right? I think it's really ironic when you say believe all women, but you can't believe a woman who passed away over 20 years ago, said multiple times she was never married, and I had one bad thing to say about the dude that so-called molested or SA'd her. But all of a sudden it's believe all women. But you know what? I get it. It's believe all women as long as it lines up with our narrative. And if it doesn't line up with your narrative, I ain't gonna say the F word, but you get where I'm going. Effort, which is pretty much what
I absolutely don't think we should believe all women. I think we should believe the facts when they support the charges. I think we should believe the facts when they support the charges, and that's what I go with.
Let me slide in real quick. Nikki, do you believe the sex tape with R. Kelly? Do you believe what you know of? Do you believe it to be true?
Yes.
You believe that the female that's on the left is the female that's on the right?
I don't know anything about these two females that you have on the screen, nor am I going to try and pick apart whether or not it was doctored, whether or not it was real. I'll tell you what I believe. I believe that R. Kelly, as testified, and I can't remember the exact facts of the case, but if I remember correctly, there was more than one video recording. There was numerous recordings of R. Kelly recording himself with that girl and others, if I'm not mistaken. And then I also remember, because I heard OG Patrice yesterday, and I remember that same story exactly as she told it, and his brother told it about him being on that video, and about R. Kelly trying to convince his brother to take the fall. I remember the story about his sister being one of his first abusers. I remember the story about the neighbor. And I remember all of this from way back when. If it was only one tape that they were trying to convince me were doctored and it wasn't R. Kelly, maybe. But it wasn't just one tape. It was more than one tape. And I'm very much convinced that it was R. Kelly. Go ahead, J. Rock.
But you know what, Shank and Nikki, you're absolutely right. There was more than one tape. Here's the funny part. R. Kelly's lawyer, Sam Adams,
let's go to my man.
All right, go ahead.
No, I just want to run my man right here, Michael Avenatti, because he's going to speak on the different tapes. And then you slide in, J. Rock.
Oh, go ahead.
Cooperate. These witnesses and this witness in this tape that you presented, or maybe the two tapes you presented, will cooperate?
Well, I'm not in a position to talk about specific witnesses, whether they're going to cooperate or not. But what I am going to tell you is this. The prosecutors don't need the witness in this tape, in my opinion, to cooperate because the tape is so clear and it's concise as to a number of things. Number one, that it's R. Kelly. There's no question that it's R. Kelly in these tapes. No question whatsoever. Number two, there's no question as to the identity of the victim in the tapes. Clear as day. Number three, repeatedly on the tapes, R. Kelly and the victim refer to her as only being 14 years of age. In fact, it appears that Mr. Kelly, this is a fetish that he has, that he likes to hear while he's engaged in these sexual assaults, that these girls are underage.
Now, I'm going to let you come in, J-Rock, and Nick him out. Now, for me, I'm not buying this because why wasn't the first tape, and I don't believe in the first tape that they stressed that she was 14. Why all of a sudden in the tapes that came out after, why was they stressing the people that's in the tape? Why was they stressing that the girl is only 14 years old? Come on in, J-Rock.
Do you know how funny this is? Because if anybody remembers the original tape back in the day, the original tape had no audio on it.
Nope.
So now all of a sudden there's audio added of him talk about a 14-year-old P or 14-year-old T. At this point, there was no original audio. There was no audio on that sex tape. And keep in mind, we talk about the same man who got busted for trying to extort Nike for $20 million. Not to mention, he also stole money from a paraplegic man. Stole $3 million from a black woman whose boyfriend just so happened to be a guy by the name Hassan Whiteside, who played in the NBA for the Miami Heat. He actually sent 2.5 because him and his girlfriend had an agreement and they broke up. So Michael Evan represented her. She got $3 million. So he paid $2.5 million. He's supposed to wire like another $500,000 at a later date. But he took that money, stole that money from her, and leased a private jet with it. And here's the biggest part of it all. People seem to forget that Michael Avenatti had political aspirations for the White House. He was trying to run for president. Because remember, he went after Trump first. And then, because he was representing Stormy Daniels. Then he busted you, came right on back, and then came out and then jumped on R. Kelly's back. Now, I think the reason why he did that was because if he's trying to run for president, you're trying to get a constituency, you're trying to get alliances, and whatever case may be. So if he goes after R. Kelly in the eyes of certain elite black folks, so to speak, it could put him in pretty high regard and could put him in a better position to maybe possibly obtain that White House. But once that Nike scandal broke out and he got busted for it, oh, by the way, he also got busted for defrauding a bank in Mississippi for, I believe it was between $5 and $10 million. And this is the man that said he had all the tapes. Let's just let that sink in. Go ahead.
I've noticed, Shank, and I've been watching some of these your demonstrations on replay, that you and some of your guests are very dismissive of factual information. And if you just don't want to accept it, you don't want to hear it, you refuse to acknowledge something that's irrefutable, then that's what you're going to do. And I'm going to accept that from you, J-Rock, Mel, Dana, and anyone else in the chat, because again, I'm not going to become a target of anyone in the chat. I mean, I see somebody in the chat that thinks that, this is a ping pong match, that I'm going to go back and forth with them. And I just absolutely refuse to do that. Again, I'm not here to go back and forth about what my credentials are, but an opinion is an opinion. I give J-Rock the fact that he seems to have all the biography and the history down. I myself don't have that. I recognize criminal behavior. I study criminal behavior. I have degrees to certify me to acknowledge and diagnose criminal behavior. So for someone to keep saying, I'm going on rumors and lies, I'm just going to respectfully disagree. But again, I also see that when there is factual information in front of you guys, even when it's been proven, because I've watched y'all with the Diddy comments as well. Oh, they haven't proven this. Oh, they haven't proven that. When I'm like, oh, well, they did. The testimony proving that. But again, if you refuse to accept it, then there's no need for me to stand here or sit here, I suppose, and argue with any of you back and forth. I just came up here really to address the comment I asked.
Well,
what's the difference
it's not the fact that
between
we're
this
arguing
criminal
in regards to
behavior
that.
and a layman's criminal behavior? Because the only thing I'm recognizing is that you guys seem to be impressed with his celebrity status. The fact that this man is very talented.
No, it's not.
And
It's
I'm
not
just not buying that.
It's not the fact about his celebrity status. What it is when you see something that you know deep down that's not right, and you let it ride on one person, what makes you think it's going to stop at that one person?
And so I heard you guys address that too. And so let me address that, J-Rock, because that's another issue I have. No way should we be claiming or stating that we should give any man, black, white, purple, green, yellow, a pass just because in history we haven't been given the due respect that we all deserve. I know the justice system is flawed. It absolutely is. And that's why we have me, you, and others who fight. We get on these demonstrations and we fight for justice every day and we try to right wrongs. But it doesn't help when you put a felon in the office for president. Okay. But it also doesn't help for y'all to stand here, sit here, and argue for any person that's a criminal in criminal behavior and have it be okay just because the man is black. Come on, Shanklin, you grinning, but come on now.
No, I'm grinning because you're taking a shot at the best president that the United States of America ever had. Go ahead.
Come on, that man a clown. That man is a clown. But I'm gonna give you your 70%, and I'm debunking your 70% because I didn't watch your demonstrations, and every time you like, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, but I didn't slashed off another 2%, 3%. So your 70% has diminished. Okay, it's not at 70% no more. I didn't want to tell you that. I'm gonna give you your numbers one day, but I ain't gonna do it live because I don't want people to know your 70% is now down to 37.
Oh
But
God,
anyway,
saying she done drop you down. You 50% up. But I look at things
your
like,
percentage points though.
I look at things as how they present it, but I also have an open mind to know that, and sometimes from personal experience, that things aren't what they always seem to be. Now, I asked this question the other day. I said, they convicted Donald Trump of 34 felonies. Most of them was tax evasion, right? Do anybody have any reports where they ever asked Donald Trump for $1 million in back taxes or $1 billion? Did they give him a tax bill? I'm just, and I'm not going against anything. I'm just asking a question. Did they come out and say he owed this much in taxes?
I don't know, Mel, because I don't know that he ever even released his tax records.
Exactly. So you convicted him, but you never asked him for a penny. But ask Lauryn Hill. She went to prison for tax evasion, and she still had to pay. So did Ron Isley. So did Wesley Snipes. But even with all of that, they never asked Donald Trump for a penny. So if this a person that never paid taxes in his entire, adult life, how much does he owe?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a question. I'm not trying to debunk him being convicted of the 34 felonies, but how much does he owe? How much? You guys never said he owes this amount of money.
That's a good question. And you know what?
I want to.
Yeah.
You know who paid Lauryn Hill tax bill? Prince. $400,000. I'm just saying, like, what? They never asked him for a penny. So you convict him. How much does he owe?
Yep. But you know what? There's another point I want to bring up because there was people always talk about the fact that R. Kelly was supposed to be criminal behavior, supposed to be a pedo, this, that, and the third. I find it real funny that in the New York transcript of his trial, the prosecution's own doctors that they called to the stand said that R. Kelly does not have the tendencies nor the makeup of a pedo. So if the doctors on the stand,
you know what?
I was just
Can I
going to give
address that, J Rock?
I was just going to give respect to Nikki.
Yeah,
Because
can
I'm
I
just going
address
to
that?
say,
Yes.
did he have a psychological evaluation? So that was those doctors' evaluations.
Let me
only.
share something with y'all that you will find probably a bit intriguing. And Mel, you know a bit of this, right? Every time I testify in court, I can honestly tell you 99% of the time, it's never for the victim. It's always for, I'm going to say, the defendant in this case, right? And I'm also going to tell you, J-Rock, to what you're saying, I don't get to give my opinion so much as I have to give facts. So when I'm giving facts, what this person's mental diagnosis is, what their family background is, things they may have suffered in childhood, how this may have affected them. These are all things that have come about because of my evaluation, my assessment, correct? But it doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with the defendant or the defense attorney or the way that they're putting on this case and representing it. They call me and I'm just there to give the facts of what I found in this person's case and their assessment. So I would give you a fair example. If I was called to testify in R. Kelly's case and I had to testify as to whether or not he was a victim, whether or not he was abused as a child, whether or not it affected his mental health, and whether or not it could go on to prove, well, not to prove, whether or not it could go on to affect him later in life, I would have to answer an affirmative to all those questions.
But you guys follow the same protocol,
now,
right?
guess what they wouldn't ask me? They would not ask me whether or not I thought R. Kelly was a pedo, whether or not I thought he abused anybody sexually. They would not ask me those questions. So in that instance, it would look like I was a favorable witness for the defense. And I'm telling y'all, in 99% of the cases, I'm not. It's just the nature of my work, where I work, and my credentials. So again, I understand what you're saying, J-Rock, but unless the prosecution comes back and asks me follow-up questions, yeah, I don't get to say I disagree that this person is this, that, or the third. Or yeah, I do believe he, could be a assayer or whatever the case may be. So I find what you're saying very interesting because I myself know I've been put in that situation many of times.
So it would be safe to say, based off his psychological evaluation by whoever the state used in his case, or the feds or whoever, that was their testimony. Because I would think that upon clinical psychologists, everybody would follow the same protocol. I'm just asking.
No, and I'm gonna be absolutely honest with you again, Mel, because I work for the state, I work for the government. You may be calling me because of where I work, but any good defense attorney is going to get a paid psychologist. So once they
Right,
pay
but
a
that's my question.
psychologist,
But
they
that's my
going look.
question.
Well, I'm trying to answer it. So if you get a paid psychologist, that psychologist is pretty much going to be on your side and pay for whatever you want them to say. It just so happens that I'm not a paid. I'm not one of those ones that you could hire out. I work for the government.
Right, but because he was in federal prison, wouldn't they do their own psychological evaluation?
We do, and that's what I'm
Right.
saying. But more than likely, they wouldn't call one of us that works in the government. They wouldn't
But
call one of us
right.
that works in the system. They would
But the
hire
government
somebody
is
out.
going to call their own psychologist. Is that
No,
right?
not necessarily. not
So you're
necessarily.
saying that the defense will call the state psychologist? Is that
The
right?
defense more or less will hire their own, but the only time they wouldn't if it's not enough money involved. So therefore,
But
if you
who
got
would
a
you
public
testify
defender,
for?
if you have a public defender per se, and they know it's stuff in that medical file to support.
But who would you testify for? Because you say you work for the state, you work for the government.
I work
Who
for the
would you?
government. More
Who would
than
you?
likely, the public defenders would call me because they know that this defendant has told them that they have a mental illness as
Right,
such.
but
So they're going to call me to see if my files and my assessment and evaluation supports it. So
okay. So
therefore,
this is
if
all
there isn't
different.
enough money to hire their own psychologist, then yeah, they would call me.
Right, but we're different. We're dealing. R. Kelly in his case is dealing with the federal government. So would they call their own psychologist? That's my question.
If
They're
there's
not
enough
public.
money, they would hire their own psychologist. Yes.
Right. So if the federal government would have to hire their own psychologist,
No, you
then
keep
what?
saying the federal government, Mel. That's
Because
not,
right,
no,
R.
no.
Kelly
The
case is,
defense
but
attorney,
R.
his
Kelly
defense
case is a
attorney.
fed. Right, but listen, hold on, then. I'm just trying to get the two differences here.
Right.
R. Kelly case is a federal case, right?
Yes.
So if the federals call a psychologist, they will call you, right? I'm not
No.
talking about the put. Okay, so
No, can
that's
I please?
okay.
You're
No, no,
getting it
no,
confused.
no.
Okay,
I'm
go
not,
ahead.
Nikki. I'm not confused. I'm not confused at all. There's a difference in the fed prosecuting and the public
No,
defender.
you're getting confused who wants to call a psychologist. The defense is the one who wants to call a psychologist because they want to support R. Kelly's mental illness. So it
It's the
would be
same
his
question.
defense team that would hire a psychologist, not the federal government at all. The federal government, the state prosecution, is the one who's prosecuting him.
Right, but learning from where R. Kelly's not been prosecuted by the state, he's been prosecuted by the federal government.
Yes.
That's okay. So listen, in Young Thug trial, the prosecution brought a lot of whoever the specialists or whatever. Now the defense, they had a chance to call that, but they didn't even put on the defense at all. They used everything that the the state brought at them. They used all of that and won that case and won that trial, which is the same thing that's happened in Baby Oil's case. They're not calling no defense because they're pointing out the corruption with what the government presented in his trial. So that's their defense. It's the same thing in R. Kelly's case.
Well, okay, let me make you understand something, Mel. The defense does not have to prove innocence or guilt. The state has the burden of proof. So if the defense doesn't think that the state proved their case, then they don't have to put on a defense. And
I
that's
know
exactly what happens.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. So if R. Kelly's defense called a psychologist that pretty much assessed R. Kelly, and that was his assessment, it would be up to the federals to debunk that by calling their own clinical psychologist to assess him. Is that correct?
That's a possibility. It can happen, but they wouldn't really need to go through that because you have what's called exculpatory evidence. So just because the defense presented this psychologist and they only used some of what was in that case file, the state is still given access to the whole file. So if there's more in there to support the fact that R. Kelly has additional information in his case file to support what the prosecution wants to get out, they don't need to call their own psychologist. They could just ask the psychologist that's on the stand if they know that there's evidence in that file to support what they're trying to get out, which is what
Okay.
they would do. Now, in most cases, and what I was trying to point out, in big name cases, you're not going to call the state psychologist. You're going to
Because
hire your own because you can get them to say what you want them to say.
I'm talking about the government as well. So I'm gonna let you finish, and I'm gonna end this with Shane or D-Rock answering this question. Was any girl or woman that R. Kelly was involved with 13 or younger?
No.
No.
Let me
So
go
that
back.
So,
takes
Wait,
pedo off the table.
okay.
so
Wait a minute.
wait a minute, because
Go
Mel
ahead.
never gave me a chance to answer her question. In most states, the law states that you have to be, in order to get charged with an SA of any degree, is age 15 or 16, and you have to be at least 5 years or older. That's the first thing. So it's SA of any degree, first, second, third, or whatever. Then now it reduces down to 14 and under. Now, in some states, it may be 13. Every state law isn't the same. So I was trying to answer your question, and I'm trying to answer it clearly, with clarity. It's 15 and 16 for any SA assault, first, second, third degree. Then it drops down to 14 and under. And to answer your question about the pedo charge, I believe it's 14 and under, not necessarily 13, although it could be 13 in some states. So although what you're saying may be correct in some states, not every state, and it's not just 13 and under. But just because you're 14 or 15 does not mean that you can't be charged with an SA of second or third degree, especially if you're 4 to 5 years older than the teenager.
Oh,
Now you
okay.
know what?
Well, I
That
just
part that Nikki said, I'm sorry. That part that Nikki said, I do agree with, and here's why I agree with it. Because there's another well-known person that actually had committed a SA on a 15-year-old, but wound up having to take a plea deal, and it's public record. And like Nikki said, if you got criminal activity, you're a criminal. That's a criminal. If you SA'd a 15-year-old and you were at least 23 at the time, that's a criminal.
Thank you,
okay.
J. Rock.
But the
So
funny
that's
part
helping
about
me
it is
understand.
that
That's helping
criminal
me
has,
understand what R. Kelly was charged with. He was
yeah.
charged with rape. Is
But
that
you know
right?
what? But you know what? Here's where I'm going with it. Because that criminal has a very, very influential platform right now as we speak. And he
Oh,
gets
Let me
heard
wow.
on the radio every day.
let
Oh,
me
wow.
go. Let me go back to Michael Avenatti, and then I'm gonna come back and give you y'all last words.
Based on the content of the tape. So this is a bombshell piece of evidence that we turned over a few weeks ago. I think the tape today is another bombshell piece of evidence. And finally, after 28 years of sexually abusing and assaulting young girls, some of whom were from the most vulnerable of our society, lower socioeconomic status and the like, finally, I think justice is going to be done in this case. I believe there's no question that R. Kelly is going to be convicted. And I believe there's no question that he's going to serve out the rest of his life in a prison, which is where he's belonged now for some time.
You represent two of the alleged victims. Why did these victims choose to come forward now?
Well, I mean, I think that they've been trying to get their voices heard for a long period of time. I mean, I represent 6, 7 individuals now, not just victims, but whistleblowers as well as some parents. And I think that you're about to see a tidal wave of additional victims and witnesses come forward. And I also believe that in a very short period of time, it's going to be like rats leaving a sinking ship. I think the people that are very close to R. Kelly that have enabled this conduct, and there's a lot of them. He did not carry this out on his own across 28 years.
And I'm going to stop it right there. If he didn't carry it out on his own, why is he the only one that's in prison? Any last words, J. Rock?
Great question, Shank. I totally agree with you. And also, did you know the same person you just played, Michael Avenatti, he just got hit with another 8 years. And now he's trying to get a pardon right now. Because I told people a long time ago, if you really pay attention, you can take this however you want to. If you don't want to, I don't want to believe it, that's fine. There's another lady on YouTube by the name of Spitting Fire who I know. Shout out to her. She's a great content and everything in regards to what she does. Me and her kind of came up with a segment called the R. Kelly Karma Train. And what that entails is everybody who has, with a major platform, who has said anything bad or ill toward R. Kelly have been catching their own private hell down the line. And I mean, it is just incredible the kind of hell. I'm talking, how Wendy Williams doing right now? Didn't John Legend lose a child? Didn't Ricky Smiley lose a baby? Hell, we can even go down the line even a little bit further. Everything that has happened, we got, remember the BNC network? They're no longer in existence. Sister Circle, canceled. I mean, you can't do wrong on people and think it's going to be cool. I mean, and people say, you know, criminal activity, you need to go ahead and be held accountable. And Nikki, I agree with you 100%. Then somebody needs to hold Demetrius Smith, the so-called tour manager, accountable for sleeping with the underage girl they accused R. Kelly of sleeping with. Not to mention the fact he was the brainchild behind the so-called marriage certificate. That's how Vibe magazine got a hold to the marriage certificate, because he was supposed to turn it in when the so-called marriage was supposed to take place. The minister was supposed to turn it into the state. The minister didn't do that. What happened was he gave it to Demetrius Smith, and Demetrius Smith leaked it to Vibe magazine. Vibe magazine stopped the press on all their other stories to make sure they had that story intact. Because I remember it, because when I bought that Vibe magazine, keep in mind that was the February edition of Vibe. That Vibe magazine came out a week or two before Christmas. That's when I got it. So at that point, that's how the whole story blew up, because of Demetrius Smith. He lied about R. Kelly. The real reason R. Kelly went back to Chicago, because it wasn't to marry a minor, it was to deal with a completely different legal issue. And at this point in time, that tells me if he's a criminal and he's the only one in jail, somebody just want to make sure that he's the only one going down. Because keep in mind, they never want to take the parents to take that stand either, because they didn't want the parents to face any cross-examination. But that's my time. I appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you, J Rock. I see you over there in Dana, Jays.
Oh, for sure.
If you going, I don't even know if you're going, but if you is, I see you over there.
I'll be over there.
All right. Any last words, Nick?
Yeah. Just to answer the question, why other people aren't being charged if they help them, because what you have is yes men and enablers all around powerful people, and you're always going to have that. And unfortunately, we see that every day in these cases where big powerful people are charged with crimes. And you put a comment on the screen that criminals are the ones who are serving convictions. I'm paraphrasing, but that is correct. I mean, just because you're charged with a crime doesn't make you a criminal, because obviously you may not be convicted. But I did say R. Kelly is doing crime. And just while I have you real quick, you know, Miss Weems, Terry Weems, the lady that was in Baltimore that had the daycare, her husband was the ex-cop. She found out he was essaying the children on her daycare bus. Remember, she pow-powed him in DC a couple of years ago? She just got released. And a lot of you guys believe in street justice, and that's street justice for you. She actually took care of what she thought was a problem. A lot of people are supporting her and actually celebrating her release, and they're, you know, looking to help her out. So I just thought I'd mention that to you if you did do the story on her, but just in case you didn't know. She has been released, and yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah, me too. Everybody's supporting her. I mean, that's one of those stories where people call for street justice, and she absolutely did not wait around. She went and confronted her husband, and she took care of business. But as always, I appreciate you, Shank. I appreciate your panel, your chat. I do get passionate. I have no bad energy, no bad vibes towards anyone. I don't ever want it to seem that way. I just get passionate about, you know, these cases. So I don't want anyone to think I have any hard feelings. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Peace.
You're welcome,
All
Nikki.
right.
Nikki is an old timer over here. So Nikki's been around for going on 3 years, as well as Mel and a few others. So none of us mean any harm. It's an open platform, and I allow everybody to voice their opinions. Over here, we agree to disagree. So don't nobody feel a certain way by somebody on my panel or even those in the chat. Nobody feel offended by anyone's opinion. Everybody has a right to their opinion over here. Take us away, Mel.
Yeah, thanks for that, Shank. Been around since Shanquella Robinson, so not always that we always agree. We always had to pick each other brains and battle it out. So it's all natural because it's all to me. It's always learning experience. I always learn something new. Going, battling out with somebody because I learned something, and I'm thankful for that. And just to end out by saying again, you know, with the attorney saying, oh, where he was dealing with girls from low socioeconomic backgrounds, with him being of his celebrity status, how did he get access to it? Remember I said, well, how did he? He had Sparkle say he had all these girls. So why was he going? How did he get access to the type of girls that the attorney is speaking about when he already had plenty girls coming at him that I don't know, it doesn't make sense. And all of a sudden now, they had one tape, and now they done found two more? Or did you have them all the time, or did you doctor something up? He seems very, very confident in himself. And I do remember, speaking back on what D-Rock said, and I do remember that original video that came out, 20 years ago? It didn't have any sound on it. But, AI, if you're a TikTok and see those little kids on there, AI can do a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's my time. Appreciate the conversation, and we'll do it again soon.
All right. Salute,
Thanks
Mel.
to the chat as well.
Appreciate you, Mel.
All right.
Salute, everybody. I will leave the chat running, and you all can hang around. Salute.
Attorneys and managers and agents and a whole bunch of other people helping him cover this up, book flights for these girls, put them in hotels, keep them under wraps. This is not something that he did on his own. And I think a lot of these people are going to begin abandoning him because they're going to be looking to save their own butts.
And we should say that R. Kelly pleaded not guilty in court today, and his attorney, Steve Greenberg, has attacked your credibility. He's attacked your evidence. He says you are showboating. What do you say to that?
Well, let me tell you something. R. Kelly needs a better attorney than Mr. Greenberg. Mr. Greenberg doesn't know the basics of criminal law based on what I've seen thus far. He's made claims about double jeopardy. He's made all kinds of claims. He's more interested in attacking me than defending his client. I mean, he really better get focused in a big hurry because his client's in a lot of trouble.
Now, you represent Andrea Kelly. That is one of the alleged victims here. And now what's interesting is
I represent her father.
You're her father.
Correct.
Now, but is she, at this point, is she going to cooperate?
Well, we don't know. I mean, she's still with R. Kelly. Again, I'm representing her parents. A lot of these girls that were with him have been coerced. They've been brainwashed. R. Kelly has taken steps to
Can I interrupt you right now and ask you, as a representative of her father, you're representing her father, what has her father said about introducing and facilitating that initial relationship with R. Kelly? Because we all saw it on the documentary. It all came out. He was very open. But what message is he now saying? Because there are a lot of people that say, I would never even bring my daughter anywhere close to R. Kelly.
Well, but let me address that because this is a really important point. First of all, there's a lot of things that were not included in the documentary about that. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you have to understand that Mr. Kelly had a lot of people around him that reassured parents about allowing their kids to be around R. Kelly, that he was on the up and up, that he was legitimately interested in assisting them in their musical careers, that there was nothing untoward or improper going on, that they were going to be supervised at all times, that other adults were going to be around, that R. Kelly was never going to be alone with these girls. So a lot of these parents, not just Mr. Clary, but others, were reassured that he had their best interest at heart, and he violated that trust time and time again. This is not a situation where parents were pimping out their kids to R. Kelly. And any suggestion of that by Mr. Greenberg or otherwise is outrageous.
But you do understand how some people would come to that conclusion, considering he had already been on trial once and acquitted. But
I can understand that. But here's what I'm going to focus on. You're talking about 14, 15, 16-year-old girls. Those girls cannot consent to have sex with anyone, let alone somebody that's 30 years older than them, as in R. Kelly. They can't consent by law. So it's not enough to say, oh, well, their parents put them in harm's way, or, oh, they deserved it, or they appeared to like it, or they were trying to further their careers. A 14-year-old girl cannot consent to have sex with a man 30 years older than she is.
I want to pick up on something you just said a few minutes ago, too, about what you're calling the enablers, the people around him who are allowing this, according to you, to happen. Are you saying that those people are in legal jeopardy?
I'd like to place an order. Yeah. Hey, let me get a chicken box and a half and half. All right, good looking out.
Tinted window screaming after law out my mouth. I'm switching lanes from up north to down south. Now everybody trying to figure how I put it down. I took my show on the road straight out of town. Pee-wee is my nigga, so you know I brought some crooks with me.
1998, they tried to throw the book at me.
Tell me what you see every time you take a look at me. A straight P, I only be where the hookers be. A old head, but still can pull any fly chick. One thing's for sure, you never see me ride a nigga dick. I got a thoroughbred who loves to call me pretty daddy. Through Alabama, getting hit in a pink caddy when I come through. Everybody knows me, the young niggas love me. They call me they OG. Go and do your homework about the shit that I spit. They gon' tell you that nigga Shank is legit. A chicken box, a half and half when I'm switching lanes. I'm switching lane. A chicken box, a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane. A chicken box, a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane. A chicken box, a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane. I eat a chicken box before I play a game of spades. A half and half is sweet tea mixed with lemonade. Some brown liquor with a coke to sharpen up my skills. I switch lanes cause I only fuck with the real. Now she's a winner, so I got to keep her on my team. Plus I'm a real one, so I never ever sell her dreams. You wanna know if I'll quit or if I'll stop? But they say it ain't over till your casket drops. A chicken box, a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane. A chicken box, a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane. A chicken box, a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane. A chicken box, a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane.